If they've got weapons and they're pointing them at us and they're not engaging us though, then where's that line between where you shoot back? Or do you even start to shoot? Or do you even raise your weapons in a aggressive manner? You know, it's very diplomatic in some situations. I remember one of our section commanders had drawn his weapon because somebody had reached in his pockets and he yelled at him, "Stani, stani," or "Stoi, stoi," stay, you know, stop, stop. And he pulled out 2 hand grenades and quickly put his fingers in the pins and was like holding them and screaming at us in another language that we couldn't understand, coming closer and closer. And the master corporal and the sergeant both have their weapons pointed right at him, and he's got 2 grenades and he's screaming, and it was escalating really bad. And in that situation, he just looked like a civilian guy. Like, how do you know what his intentions are? And you can't understand what he's saying. I can't remember if they tackled him or he finally settled down and took his fingers out and put them back in his pockets or whatever. And then they arrested him. Basically, we did a lot of stuff like what the police would do. We would lay them down, put their arms behind their back, use those plastic zap straps for handcuffs. You can't break those things or get, you know, or tie their thumbs together or whatever.
Somebody from the Croatian side actually came down and burnt the house down. We were worried that there was somebody in there, so you know, we kind of followed the hard pack because we were worried about mines, to the fact that we weren't walking off of concrete very much. So we took a calculated risk to kind of look around to try and do the best we could to make sure there was nobody actually left in this building, and the heat was too much that we wouldn't have got in there anyway. You know, we didn't see anything or hear anybody, so we backed off, and just as we backed off, I saw some movement, and I brought my rifle up, and it was this guy on a bicycle. And it was actually the first 6 months that we'd been issued the Alcan sight. So looking at him through like basically a just under 4 power magnification, had I wanted to shoot him, I could basically just at that range, no deflection with him riding away, he wasn't gonna outrun the bullet, and I could just about pick the organ that I wanted to shoot at that range. And because he didn't have a weapon and he was fleeing away from me, he was kind of beneath the criteria for rules of engagement. So this is a guy that I'm convinced was the guy that burned that family out of their house. And you know, it's one of those things that you kind of wonder what the consequences were. Like, if I'd have shot him, I probably would have made the world a better place, but there's a good chance I would have gone to jail over it, or had to, you know, lie about it to people about, you know, what really happened. So that's kind of some of the things that stay with you, not to mention, you know, the adrenaline and everything else that goes through you when you're about to shoot somebody. Like, I physically stopping myself from shooting him was actually one of the hardest things I've ever done. You know, I've often compared the feeling to lust. It's not quite there, but it's the only thing that comes close when I actually had that sight picture. And the only thing that comes close is saying, you know, like, from not shooting him, it's comparable to, you know, having the woman of your dreams in bed beside you and you rolling over and reading a book. That's about the closest thing I can think of to like what it took for me to not drill this guy, basically not put a bullet right in the bottom of his skull, because at that range it would have been no problem at all.